What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about the buy low players that you need to target in trades, and also going over some sell high players that you should trade away before it's too late. Just before we talk about these players, two quick shoutouts. One is to follow my X/Twitter at FIREDUP Fantasy. I post a lot of up-to-date information on there. I only can post videos so often, and I have to edit, record, etc. So the best way to get up-to-date information is following that Twitter. The second thing is to join the Discord community. The link is in the description below in my link tree. And yeah, there's just a bunch of people in there talking fantasy hockey, good vibes, and I'm in there chatting with you guys too, giving advice. So feel free to check that out. The last thing I want to say, guys, if you want to do pick'ems on the NFL, NHL, and more, if you want to do best ball drafts, daily fantasy sports, make sure you head over to Drafters Fantasy Sports and sign up on the app using referral code FIREDUP to get 100% match deposit up to $100. This is the pick'em I did tonight. Unfortunately, Velarde and Sergachev may sell. We'll see. I'm recording this as those games are going on, guys. But yeah, there's more info in the comments. Make sure you download the app, use my referral/promo code FIREDUP, and you get that bonus money to use for these pick'ems. All right, let's start talking about these buy low players, guys. The first player is Matthew Tkachuk. He's only played 4 games. Obviously, he was sick. I think he had an operation or something like that. And in those 4 games, he's only put up 3 assists. So you might be able to get a good deal on him, and we know he's a fantastic player who can put up some monster numbers. So it's a no-brainer. Another player is Carter Verhaeghe. He did score tonight. He was so due to score, guys. He's taken a ton of shots, and still, like, he has 1 goal in 9 games. His shooting percentage is 2.9%. He gets elite ice time on a line with Barkov and Reinhart. Barkov should be back soon, which is going to help Verhaeghe. And he's on that first power play unit as well. So, yeah, Verhaeghe is one of my favorite targets in a trade. And I still think you're going to get a very good deal on him. So, yeah, I would definitely suggest trading for him before it's too late. The next buy low player is Zach Hyman of the Oilers. Yes, they were doing some weird stuff with the power play units in practice. They had Hyman and Nugent Hopkins on the second unit, and then they had Arvidsson and Skinner on the first. But I don't foresee this lasting very long. I do think Hyman will be on that top unit for most of the year. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Maybe some risk, maybe a little bit of risk, but yeah, not too worried about it. And this is a guy that is an obvious buy low. I mean, 0 points in 7 games. He's top line with Connor McDavid. He should be on that first power play unit for the entire year. A power play that should still be top 5 or top 10 in the NHL, guys. He has elite ice time. He's almost averaging 20 minutes of ice time per game. And yeah, this has got to be the easiest, most obvious buy low. And with this power play unit mix up, some owners may be a little bit panicked on Hyman, guys. So go send out those trades for Hyman, and hopefully you can get a good deal. The next buy low is Steven Stamkos. I wasn't the highest on Stamkos going into this season because of his ADP. That's all I care about, guys. Average draft position. But right now, he only has 1 goal and 0 assists in 7 games, 4.6% shooting percentage. And to me, that's a buy low. There's no reason why Steven Stamkos should not be producing with his deployment. 19 minutes and 30 seconds of ice time per game on the first power play unit, surrounded by some elite players on that power play. And even though he's on the second line, even strength, it doesn't matter, guys. Like, Stamkos is going to still put up 30 plus goals, 60 plus points. He's going to have some big games, some big weeks. And he's generating a lot of scoring chances and shooting the puck quite a bit, which I like. So yeah, everything is screaming buy low for me when it comes to Steven Stamkos, and I suggest you send out some trades and try to get him. The next buy low is Elias Pettersson of the Vancouver Canucks. No, I'm not the biggest fan of him, and I didn't draft a lot of him this year, to be honest with you guys. But in 6 games, he has 0 goals and 3 assists. So this is an obvious buy low. I do wish he would shoot the puck a little bit more, guys, but, you know, he's still getting elite deployment. He's still on the power play 1, and just look at the last couple of seasons for Pettersson, guys. He's going to produce, and you might be able to get a really good deal for him at the current moment. Moving on to the next batch of buy low forwards, we have Wyatt Johnson. Listen, guys, 1 goal, 4 assists in 8 games. It's not great, and it's definitely disappointing to see him have a slow start because I was very high on him going into this year. But the fact is that he is a massive buy low. The reason why he's such a buy low is because he is currently leading these stars in ice time per game, guys. 19 minutes and 24 seconds of ice time per game is absolutely elite. And he is on the top power play unit as well. He's getting good power play time, even though they've mixed up the units a bit, even though they've given good usage to the second unit because, frankly, it's been better than the first unit on some nights. Even though that's true, he's still on that top unit with those guys like Robertson, Hintz, Heiskanen, etc. So, yeah, I mean, you're looking at a guy with elite deployment, very low shooting percentage right now, 5.3%. And when Maverick Bourque is in the lineup, Johnson has been top line with Hintz and Robertson. So, yeah, I just think there's a lot of things to like about him. He's still a very young player who was incredible last season, despite limited power play time and limited minutes. So, yeah, this is a massive buy low for me, guys. If you're in a league that heavily values peripherals, he may not be that good, but we knew this going into the year. We knew he didn't put up the most amount of shots. We knew he didn't hit or block. So it depends what type of league you're in, but in my opinion, you need to buy low on him. The next buy low player on this list is Owen Tippett of the Philadelphia Flyers. Only 1 goal and 1 assist in 7 games, which is not great, but what is a good sign is that his shooting percentage is very low, 5%. This should regress to the mean. The goal scoring should come around. And another good sign that I'm liking about Owen Tippett is his deployment. He's currently averaging 17 minutes and 59 seconds of ice time per game, which is very solid and not what we generally see from Owen Tippett. He's typically been a guy that's averaging around 15 to 16 minutes of ice time per game. So Torts has given him more minutes, which I love to see. And also, power play one time is pretty darn good, guys. Usually they split the usage for both the first and the second unit, but they are running a dedicated first unit with Michkov coming into the fold, guys. They have Michkov, Tippett, Frost, Konechny, and Drysdale getting pretty significant power play time. So that could be very good for Tippett. It's very good long term. We'll see what happens. But in general, because of this stuff that I mentioned, and also because he puts up monster shots and hits, which could be weighted heavily in your league, he is absolutely a buy low player. Some more buy low players here. Matthew Barzal. Yes, they're splitting the power play units in practice. Don't expect this to last, guys. They're just trying to make something work because the power play has been so abysmal. But the fact is, he only has 1 goal and 2 assists in 6 games. The points should come around. The power play should improve. And he is getting elite ice time, guys. 21 minutes and 26 seconds of ice time per game. He's a very talented player, and you might be able to get a pretty good deal for him currently. So, yeah, definitely send out some trades and try to pick him up. Some more buy low players include Jonathan Marchessault. Only 1 goal and 2 assists through 6 games. 5% shooting percentage. Getting really good ice time. 18 minutes and 39 seconds of ice time per game. Power play 1. Likes to shoot the puck. Yeah, this is a no-brainer, guys. I'm not the biggest fan of Jonathan Marchessault. I'm not very high in him. I don't think he's going to have some sort of career year. And there's definitely that regression that we're going to see from last season. But this is just too much of a buy low for me to not put him on this list. So I would definitely target him in a trade and try to get a good deal for him. Then next, we have another Islander on this list, and that Islander is Bo Horvat. He has 2 goals in 6 games, which is solid, but only has a total of 3 points. And the big reason for him as a buy low is that I do expect this Islanders power play to improve at some point. And that's going to help the production of all these Isles players. So, yeah, I just think Horvat's very talented. He's first line power play. He loves to score goals, and you might be able to get a pretty good deal for him at the current moment. So, definitely a buy low player. Moving on to the next batch of buy low players. The first player here is Travis Konechny of the Philadelphia Flyers. He is definitely a guy that I would consider trading for. And I do want to say that his goal scoring is not screaming buy low, right? He has 3 goals in 7 games, a 13.6% shooting percentage, which is very normal. So that's not the reason he's a buy low. The reason he's a buy low is because he only has 4 points in 7 games. Konechny is definitely capable of producing more than this. And what I really like about Konechny is that he has elite ice time. As you guys can see, 20 minutes and 24 seconds of ice time per game. And what we're also seeing with this Flyers power play, like I mentioned when I was discussing Tippett, is they are running a dedicated first unit, which is something that they haven't really done in the last couple of years. With Michkov joining the team, they have decided to give this first unit more ice time, which certainly will benefit Konechny long term because, as you guys know, if you've been following Konechny in fantasy, last year was a season where he was an incredible even strength producer, but he didn't put up many power play points because the Flyers power play was so bad. So if we do see a bump in power play points for Konechny, he could end up being really solid. With that being said, we'll see what happens with the Flyers. I know they're struggling, but I do think Konechny's solid and has that upside with the power play improving potentially. And he also puts up really good peripherals as well. Takes a lot of shots. The hits are decent too. So yeah, I'm a fan. With some more players here, Brad Marchand, not the biggest fan of him. He's had a lot of surgeries. The Bruins don't look the best, and he's getting up there in age. But the fact is, he has 0 goals and only 4 assists in 8 games. This is not sustainable production, guys. He is going to start producing some points. He still has elite ice time. He's still in the first line power play, and he's not totally cooked just yet. So if you're able to get a deal on Marchand, I would definitely consider it. Another player here that we have to talk about is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Like I mentioned in the Hyman section, there is some concern with the power play unit mix-up in practice where they had Hyman and Nugent-Hopkins on that second unit. But I'm not overly concerned about it, guys. I will say I feel much better about Hyman's long-term future than Nugent-Hopkins because there is the chance that Jeff Skinner or Victor Arvidsson could replace Nugent-Hopkins in that bumper role that he normally operates in. That would be the risk, right? Don't know if that's going to happen, guys. Nugent-Hopkins historically has been very good on this power play. Maybe he's been carried by some of the superstars on this power play, but the fact is, guys, he's still line 1 with McDavid. He should still be on the first line power play long term unless they really decide to mix it up. And he's getting elite ice time. So yeah, I mean, you're looking at a guy who has 0 goals and 3 assists in 7 games, which is not sustainable. And you might be able to get a pretty good deal for him at the current moment. If your league heavily values peripherals, then maybe he's not the player for you. But in certain leagues, he's an absolute buy low player that you should target in trades. The next buy low player is Gabriel Vilardi of the Winnipeg Jets. I do want to say, yes, like Nugent-Hopkins, he doesn't have the best peripherals. We knew this about him, right? He doesn't put up a lot of hits or blocks. That is a fact. And his shot volume isn't the greatest either, okay? I do want to say, though, that he has 4 shots in 6 games, and that's not sustainable at all. That's an 82-game pace of 68 shots. So we're going to see him shoot the puck a little bit more. But yes, if you're in a league that heavily values peripherals, he may not be the best trade target. With that being said, right now, Vilardi is a buy low. He has 0 goals and 3 assists in 6 games, so he's not producing. But the fact remains that he is averaging 18 minutes and 36 seconds of ice time per game, and he is a staple on the first line and the first power play unit. As long as he has his deployment, he will produce, guys. So, yeah, I mean, I would definitely trade for him in a deeper league. He's probably available on your wire in a lot of leagues, right? I understand if you dropped him in an 8-team league or maybe even a 10-team league, but in some of these deeper leagues, he's absolutely a buy low player. And if he's available on the wire in like a 10-team or a 12-team league, I definitely think he's worth picking up and seeing how he performs. We'll see what happens, but I'm expecting Vilardi to have some big games very soon. And yeah, hopefully you can get a good deal for him. The next buy low player is Lucas Raymond. I don't love Raymond in fantasy, guys. He puts up terrible shots, hits, and blocks, similar to Vilardi and Nugent-Hopkins. But the fact is that he has 0 goals through 7 games, and the goal scoring is going to come around eventually. What I also like about Raymond is that his ice time has been very good. 19 minutes and 3 seconds of ice time per game. Good power play time as well. He's on that first unit. So yeah, everything is good about Raymond in terms of his deployment. And he's going to have some pretty good weeks and games soon. So he could be a good trade target depending on your league settings, right? It has to be in a league that doesn't heavily value 2 of the 3 shots, hits, or blocks. The last official buy low player here is Brock Nelson. Yes, there is some risk, guys, because when Anthony Duclair was healthy, he was on the top power play unit over Nelson, which was obviously tanking Nelson's value. And if Duclair comes back, that could happen again, right? We don't know what's going to happen with the power play units long term. But right now, Duclair is injured for the foreseeable future. He's out week to week. And even though they're running mixed power play units in practice, which is very stupid, and they need to not do that, I expect Nelson to get back on this top unit and for them to run a dedicated first unit with him on it. Nelson's underlying stats have been very good. He's generating a lot of scoring chances. He's shooting the puck quite a bit. And I expect the production to come once they figure out this Isles power play. So in some deeper leagues, because he's only a center, he could be a great buy low target. Just quickly, here's some deeper league buy lows. These are guys that are probably available on the wire in most leagues, but if you're in like a 16-team league or an 18-team league, they could be viable trade targets. So, yeah, let me just list this off here, guys. Dylan Cousins, shooting the puck a ton, but he hasn't scored a goal. The goals will come, guys, very soon. I don't know if he's going to have the type of year that he had 2 years ago, but he's still in the top 6. He's getting more power play time recently, and I'm loving his shot volume. So, yeah, definitely a fan of him. Morgan Frost. Frost is top line, top power play unit. He's generating a lot of scoring chances. He definitely passes the eye test. He's on a line with Michkov. At least he was for the majority of the season. I think they're mixing things up a little bit here, but I would definitely say in a deeper league, he would be a pretty good trade target based off everything that we've seen so far. Then lastly, the next deep league buy low I like is Matty Beniers. He's top line power play, even though they don't run a dedicated first unit. He still gets solid power play time. And he has 0 goals through 7 games. The goal scoring will come. And even though he doesn't have the best peripherals, he's still going to be producing more than he has so far. So could be a good trade target in certain leagues. We have some more buy low players who aren't on the official list, but they could easily be on the official list, guys, because I'm expecting them to bounce back in the goal scoring department. I'm expecting them to score more goals. So if you trade for them, you might be able to get a better deal than you normally would. So yeah, let me list this off for you guys. Jesper Bratt, the 3.6% shooting percentage. Connor Bedard, 4.0% shooting percentage. Sidney Crosby, 4.6. Mitch Marner, 5.0. Jack Hughes, 6.3. And Austin Matthews, 7.7. If you guys are new here, shooting percentage is a very good advanced stat to use to determine impending regression, whether that means in the positive direction or the negative direction. And how you do this is comparing a player's shooting percentage to their career average. So with these players, the shooting percentage is far too low, and I expect them to score more goals very soon. Moving on, here's some injury buy lows. Alexander Barkov should be back in the next week or so. Valeri Nichushkin going to be back mid-November. Macklin Celebrini, he's week to week. We don't have an exact timeline, but he'll be good when he's healthy. Robert Thomas fractured his ankle. He's out 6 weeks at least. Doesn't put up really good peripherals, so depends on your league settings, but could be a good buy low as well. Then finally, we have a new IR stash, and that player is Evander Kane. We got a report today that he should be back sometime in early 2025. So could be January, could be February. We don't know. We don't have an official timeline for it. But yeah, I mean, Kane, even though he's not going to have the best even strength or power play time, he puts up monster shots and hits, right? So if you're in a category league that counts those categories, or a bangers points league, he is going to be a stud, and he is going to be worth stashing on your IR. So thought I'd give you that update, and definitely pick him up if you're in that type of league. Moving on, let's talk about some buy low defensemen. The best buy low defenseman, and probably the best player to target in a trade currently, is Evan Bouchard of the Edmonton Oilers. This one is so obvious, it's a no-brainer. I don't need to explain it to you guys. Target him in a trade. He is going to pop off very soon. And then we have some more players on here, some more defensemen. Rasmus Dahlin. Dahlin apparently has not been fully healthy. We got a quote from Lindy Ruff saying that he's getting there, but he's still not fully healthy. And we sort of knew this because Dahlin was dealing with an injury all throughout training camp. So that's probably a cause for his poor play. So once he is fully healthy, he should start playing better. And he has been an absolute beast in fantasy in the last 2 years. Monster shots, hits and blocks, really good goal scoring potential, really good point production. He's still getting elite ice time. He's still in the top power play unit. And guys, the Sabres have not scored a power play goal. So definitely promising for some of these Sabres players that are producing, because the power play points will come not only for those Sabres players, but obviously for Rasmus Dahlin included. So yeah, Dahlin, massive buy low, send out some trades. Then for some more defensemen here, we have Mikhail Sergachev. No goals and only 4 assists in 7 games. He's getting a ton of ice time. He's quarterbacking the top power play unit. The points are going to come. He puts up really good peripherals. Yes, the Utah Hockey Club are dealing with some injuries, which is certainly affecting their performance, which I don't love. But everything with his deployment screams buy low to me. So yeah, definitely take a look at him in a trade, and it should pay off. Then we got Miro Heiskanen next. He finally got a point tonight. He only has 1 assist and 0 goals in 8 games, so he's still buy low. And even though he is overrated in fantasy, this has just been a fact that we know about Heiskanen. He doesn't take a lot of shots. He doesn't put up a lot of hits or blocks. The Stars like to run different type of usages for their power plays. Even though that is true, he is still a 50 to 60 point defenseman on a really good team. So if you can get a good deal for him, I suggest you do it. The next, we have Charlie McAvoy, only 3 points in 8 games. He puts up really good peripherals, especially hits, so it really depends on your league settings. I do think he's a little bit overrated in some Yahoo default leagues where hits aren't counted and it's only shots and blocks. Yes, the blocks are good, but the shots are not great. So yeah, it depends on your league settings, but still, like 3 points in 8 games is not great. He could definitely put up more than this. He's certainly capable of doing so. He's still quarterbacking that first unit. And yeah, I just think he is a solid buy low, depending on what type of deal you can get for him. And then we have Noah Dobson. 4 assists in 6 games is not terrible, but you know, Dobson is capable of putting up more points in this. He has 0 goals in these 6 games. Still has really good ice time. Still in the first line power play, even though they're mixing the power play units up in camp. They're splitting the power plays into 2, which is very stupid. It's not going to last, so don't panic on Dobson if you own him. But if you don't own him and you're looking to trade for him, the person that owns him may be a little bit freaked out about it. So definitely capitalize on the fear and doubt when it comes to Dobson and try to get a good deal for him. One other buy low I want to mention is Brock Faber. I have not been a big fan of Faber going into this year, and I do think there is some risk that he will lose the first line power play spot at some point, because they do want to reduce his minutes a little bit. But that thought has lessened in my brain because Jared Spurgeon has not been able to stay healthy. He was the guy that I thought was going to take over the first line power play at some point, but if he can't stay healthy, the only options are Brock Faber or Declan Chisholm. Now, Chisholm could be that guy, but Faber certainly has more experience quarterbacking that top unit. So yeah, it could be Faber long term. And for the entire year. And if that's the case, then yes, he's a buy low because he hasn't been producing as he should, as a player would be on that top power play unit. So yes, there's some risk, but I do want to include him on this list because he could be a good buy low. Moving on, some buy low goalies here. These are goalies that are on good teams that should be playoff teams, and their numbers are not reflective of how they should perform long term. So just to list these off: Stuart Skinner of the Edmonton Oilers, Andre Vasilevsky of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Sergei Bobrovsky of the Florida Panthers, Jacob Markstrom of the New Jersey Devils, and Aiden Hill of the Vegas Golden Knights. I had UC Saros on here originally, but I took him out because he had a shutout. Probably can't get a very good deal on him anymore. He's a guy that always starts slow, guys. You guys got to remember that year after year. But yeah, that's a guy I edited out. And then Linus Ullmark could be a good buy low as well because he is currently injured. So you might be able to get a pretty good deal on him versus the type of deal that you could get from at the start of the year. Moving on, let's talk about some sell high forwards. These are players that are producing at an unsustainable rate, and some of them I'm just not the biggest fan of in fantasy. So yeah, to list this off, we have Tyler Seguin, who has a whopping 66.7 shooting percentage. Not sustainable, obviously. He's not on the first line power play. He's only averaging 15 minutes a night, so not a fan. And we have another Stars player, Matt Duchene, 33.3% shooting percentage as well. Way too high, not sustainable. Only around 15 minutes of ice time per game, not on the first power play units. So yeah, those two guys, that's just obvious. That's a no-brainer. The next guy is Brandon Hagel of the Tampa Bay Lightning. He has a very high shooting percentage. He just had a hat trick the other night. 31.3% shooting percentage is not sustainable. He's a guy that doesn't put up amazing peripherals as well. Those peripherals being shots, hits, and blocks. So he's going to be at a disadvantage in a ton of leagues. And I'm unsure if he's going to be on the top power play unit for the entire year, guys. That's something that we've seen in the last couple of days. He's back in the top units. But history shows that the Lightning don't love to keep him on that top unit. So with all that being considered, he could definitely be an easy sell high candidate. With that being said, maybe he'll be power play 1 for the entire year and be really good. Like, trust me, I like Hagel as a player. He's a dog. But I do have some concerns with him in fantasy. And I think if you can get a good deal sending Hagel away and get a player that you know is going to put up good peripherals, you know is going to be on the top power play unit, then I suggest you do it. The next player you need to sell high on is Anze Kopitar of the Los Angeles Kings. Yes, you probably can't sell high on him as good as you could have at the start of the year when you put up a hat trick. But just to point out the obvious here, guys, 37.5% shooting percentage is not sustainable. And he doesn't put up good peripherals either, right? His shot volume's terrible. The hits and blocks are not there. Yeah, he's just the guy that if you can sell high on him still, you definitely should. Another player like Kopitar, pure C, bad peripherals, bad shot volume. That guy is Dylan Strome of the Washington Capitals, rocking a 27.3% shooting percentage. Not sustainable. Yes, he could still produce, but if you can sell high on him, you definitely should. The next sell high is Teuvo Teravainen. Listen, guys, I'm a fan. He's going to be playing top line with Bedard, top power play unit with Bedard. His ice time is much better than it was on the Carolina Hurricanes. But the fact remains that his shooting percentage is very high at 21.4%. He's had unsustainable power play production as well. I believe he has 5 power play points in 7 games. And he's also a guy that has really bad peripherals. He doesn't take a lot of shots. He doesn't put up hits and blocks. So with all that being considered, I would try selling high on him before it's too late. Some more sell high players include Mark Stone. Yes, I love the Barbashev, Stone, and Eichel line, and I think Eichel is going to be a league winner this year. So that's going to benefit Stone long term. But the fact with Stone is that he has a 20% shooting percentage, which is not sustainable. He has unsustainable power play production as well. The Vegas power play is going to cool down, and Stone is not going to put up the type of power play points that we've seen so far. And he's a guy that doesn't have the best peripherals. He typically doesn't have high shot volume, and he's going to be at a disadvantage in a lot of leagues because of that. So with those being considered, I think if you can sell high on him, he could be a good player to do so. Then finally, we have good old Jonathan Huberdeau of the Calgary Flames. I want to see Huberdeau succeed, but we know what type of player he is on this Flames team, guys. Sometimes he's on the second or the third line, which isn't ideal, even strength. Yes, he's on the top power play unit. Yes, his ice time is still good, but he's currently rocking a 37.5% shooting percentage. His shot volume is terrible, which is going to put him at a massive disadvantage. And his goal scoring so far has been very unsustainable. So sell high if you can. Moving on, let's talk about some sell high defensemen. I'll say right off the bat that these guys, you're probably not going to get a lot of value for unless you're in a casual league. You're going to have to be in a taco league to get value for these players. But hey, some of you guys are in casual leagues with casual players. Some of you are new fantasy hockey players, and you're playing with players that might not understand deployment, the importance of deployment, shooting percentage regression, the historical data on these players. So you might be able to get some good value out of them. So yeah, let me just list this off, guys. The first player is Rasmus Andersson of the Calgary Flames. He currently has 8 points in 6 games. I think as I'm recording this, he just put up another point. So yeah, this is a screaming sell high player. 33.3% shooting percentage, unsustainable goal scoring, not power play 1. That's the big detriment for Andersson. He used to be power play 1 a couple of years ago, but he's not. It's Mackenzie Weegar. So as long as Weegar is still in the Flames, Anderson is going to be at a massive disadvantage when it comes to his upside. So yeah, this production is not sustainable. Sell high as soon as you can. Next up is Philip Broberg of the St. Louis Blues. Listen, I love to see it. 7 points in 8 games. It's funny. It's funny to see Holloway and Broberg producing better than some of these superstars on the Edmonton Oilers. But the fact is that 7 points in 8 games is not sustainable at all for a player that's not on the top power play unit. For a player of Philip Broberg's caliber, yes, he looks good out there, guys, but yeah, I mean, he's not top power play unit. He is rocking a 25% shooting percentage. And if you can get any sort of value for Philip Broberg, I suggest you do it. Then finally, we have Owen Power. He's blocked by Rasmus Dahlin when it comes to power play deployment. So yeah, I mean, his ceiling is massively capped. 6 points in 8 games is not sustainable. Rocking a 16.7% shooting percentage. Sell high. Some other obvious sell highs amongst defensemen are Neil Pionk, JJ Moser, Michael Kesselring, etc. We have some more sell high forwards. A few of them I already talked about, but these players have a mix of unsustainable production and bad deployment. When I say bad deployment, I'm talking about a player not being on the top power play unit, or having bad even strength ice time, or being on a team that runs a split power play in terms of usage. So yeah, these players here are producing at an unsustainable rate considering their lack of deployment. These players are Jared McCann. I'm a huge fan of him, but his ice time hasn't been great, and we've seen what the Kraken have done with their lines and their power play units. So he's probably a sell high, unfortunately. Tyler Seguin, already talked about him. Jordan Eberle, same argument that I mentioned with McCann. Ivan Barbashev, guys. Barbashev, you need to sell high on, especially if you're in a casual league where people don't understand that Barbashev is not on the top power play and he is not going to sustain this production. Yeah, definitely sell high on Barbashev. That's a no-brainer. Ross Colton. I believe Colton was injured, actually, as I'm recording this, so you probably can't sell high on him, but his shooting percentage has been astronomical. I love his deployment. I love his peripherals, but you do have this unsustainable shooting percentage, and you do have those injuries with Drouin, Nichushkin, Landeskog, and all these mystery players that we don't know what's going to happen with those guys. So I would rather sell high on Ross Colton if you can get some good value. I already talked about Duchesne previously, but Matt Duchesne, Claude Giroux, he still has good ice time, but he's not on the top power play unit, which massively caps his ceiling, and he's rocking a very high shooting percentage. So sell high. Some other guys here are just rocking high shooting percentages, and I'm not the biggest fan of their deployment. Troy Terry, Marco Rossi, Sam Bennett. Yes, Bennett has been really good, but he's also been getting reps on this top power play with Barkov out. So once Barkov is back, that is going to change, and Bennett will not be as good. So sell high if you can. Anthony Cirelli, Anton Lundell, Connor McMichael, Stefan Nason, Cole Perfetti, Riley Smith, etc. These are guys that have a high shooting percentage, and they're producing at an unsustainable rate considering their deployments. So definitely sell high. Next, I just wanted to highlight some players that have a very high shooting percentage. I talked about some of them already, but some of them I haven't. So just to highlight some notable players with an extremely unsustainable goal scoring rate. These players are Tyler Seguin, Anze Kopitar, Jonathan Huberdeau, Josh Norris, Tim Stützle, JJ Peterka, Tom Wilson, Ivan Barbashev, Matt Duchesne, Brandon Hagel, Jared McCann, Artemi Panarin, Brock Besser, and Cole Caulfield. This isn't to say that these guys are going to be bad long-term. No, I'm a big fan of some of these players, but we do have to recognize that right now their goal scoring is unsustainable, and it's going to cool down. Some other players here: Mark Scheifele, Dylan Strome, Tyler Toffoli, Matt Zuccarello, Troy Terry, Drake Batherson, Nikita Kucherov, Ross Colton, Dylan Gunther, Barrett Hayden, Tomas Hertl, Connor Garland, Marco Rossi, and Ricard Raquel. All these guys have over a 20% shooting percentage, and obviously on the first page that I mentioned, some of these guys have over 30% shooting percentage. So yeah, we'll see some goal scoring regression when it comes to most of these players. Now, one last sell high player I need to talk about, and I don't even want to say his name. It's going to pain me to say because I'm a huge fan of this player. I drafted quite a bit of him in my best ball drafts, and I hyped him up all off season long. That player is Timo Meier of the New Jersey Devils. Now listen, Meier is an absolute dog. He's playing incredible. He's shooting the puck a ton, generating scoring chances. He looks great out there. He puts up a lot of hits too if your league values those. But the problem is that they took him off the top power play unit. The Devils have put Stefan Noesen on this top unit, and they've put Meier on the second unit. And that is very concerning for Meier long term. It's going to cap his ceiling if he is not on that top unit. And I do worry that they may keep these units the same long term. The reason for this is not because Meier has been bad on the top units, but Noesen is a very good net front player. And the big thing is that he's a righty. They need a right-handed player on this top unit because they have so many lefties, guys. Jack Hughes is a lefty. Jesper Bratt's a lefty. Nico Heischer's a lefty. Timo Meier's a lefty. And sometimes it's about chemistry and the moving parts of the power play and how it operates, which player is in each spot. Sometimes that is much more important than having your best players on the top unit. And unfortunately, I do think having a righty as a net front player is beneficial for this top power play. And that's going to hurt Meier long term because they may keep Meier on that second unit. I also want to mention that this top power play has produced more with Noesen on it versus Meier. And Noesen has looked really good on there so far. So yeah, that's my major concern and why I might suggest selling high on Meier while his production is super good. This is not to say that Meier is not going to be a stud in fantasy long term. I still think he's going to be solid, but he's probably not going to be a point per game player like he's playing right now. I don't think that's going to be possible without top power play unit usage. So, I mean, right now his season rank is like top 10, depending on your league. And that means that if you want to trade him away, you could get a really good deal in the process. I do want to say, though, that yes, there is a chance that Meier gets back on this top unit. The power play could be struggling, and they want to put Meier back on there because Meier was really good as a net front player last year. That's a fact. There could be an injury. Maybe they move Bratt to the second unit on some nights because Meier is so good on that right circle, and that's where he's been so good in his career. In fact, he's been one of the best power play goal scorers in the NHL in the last 3 years. So they're going to give him power play time. I'm just unsure of which unit he's going to be on. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But, there is a chance he gets back on that first power play unit at some point throughout the year. Nonetheless, though, as I said, there is a very good chance as well that he's on the second unit for the entire year. Yes, he's in the top 6. Yes, he's still going to put up a lot of shots and hits, and he's still going to put up points. But his ceiling is probably going to be 70 points, and that's definitely the ceiling without getting significant power play time. So, like I said, sell high if you can, especially right now where his value is going to be super high, and try to get a player that is going to be really good for the entire year. The last thing I want to show you guys is power play percentages, and this may give you a good idea on which players are going to improve from a cold start and which players are going to cool down from a hot start. The top 5 power plays here: Winnipeg, Ottawa, Colorado, Vegas, Minnesota. Some of them are definitely going to be unsustainable, guys, especially obviously Winnipeg and Ottawa, where it's above 40%. It's not sustainable, and some of the guys that have been producing like crazy may cool down a bit. Guys like Batherson or Sanderson, guys that have been putting up power play points at an unsustainable rate. So that's something to consider. And you guys can see the rest of the power plays here. Chicago, don't know if they're going to have a top 10 power play, guys. Wouldn't expect it. So definitely could see some regression from guys like Teuvo Teravainen, who's put up a lot of power play points so far. Philadelphia, they may see some power play regression. I don't think they're going to end up with a top 10 power play. Definitely a good sign, though, because their power play has been the worst in every single one of the last 3 years. They've been dead last. So we could finally see a year where they're not the worst power play in the NHL. But yeah, in terms of some other teams here, obviously it's so early on, guys. Things are going to change. So the middle of the pack, nothing really worth noting here, but what's really important to look at is the power plays that are struggling. The biggest one here is the Sabres. 22 power plays and 0 power play goals, a 0% power play percentage. Obviously concerning, right? Like, you want to see the power play improve, because that was a topic of discussion going into this season, right? New head coach, new assistant coach, Seth Appert, coming from the Rochester Americans, more movement on the power play. This is something that I was telling you guys, but the power play has been terrible. So even though it's concerning, it could actually be a positive for some Sabres players. The reason I say this is because players like Tage Thompson and Alex Tuch have been producing very good without any power play points. So if this power play can figure it out, then it's going to boost those players even more. Guys like Rasmus Dahlin are going to start producing. Dylan Cousins, even like JJ Peterka has played really well without any power play points. So yeah, definitely a good sign for those guys. And I think you're going to see Rasmus Dahlin, Dylan Cousins, some of these other guys start getting some better production, because this power play is not going to stay at 0%, guys. It is not sustainable, and we're going to see some power play goals very soon. Other power plays that could improve are the Capitals and the Ducks. Yes, I think the Ducks are going to still have a bottom 5 or bottom 10 power play in the NHL, but 8.7% is not sustainable. So we could see some better power play production from some of their players. Same with the Capitals, like I said. And then we have the Dallas Stars, 9.52% power play percentage. That is not sustainable. We're going to see this power play improve. And that could mean a good buy low opportunity on some of the Stars players. A player like Wyatt Johnson and Mira Heiskanen, guys that I mentioned earlier. So we're going to see this power play improve very soon. The Islanders have also had a terrible power play. Hopefully they run a dedicated first unit instead of what they're doing in practice. But should see a bump in power play production very soon for some of those players, because 10.5% is not sustainable. And then Edmonton, guys, 10.53% as well for the Oilers. Terrible stuff from a power play that should be on paper a top 3 power play in the NHL. The good thing is that this is going to improve, okay? The players like Draisaitl, Bouchard, McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, Hyman, guys that have been underperforming, there's a very good chance that they're going to start producing more, because this power play is going to improve. So definitely some good buy low opportunities on the Oilers. Some other buy low players could be located on the Leafs. I talked about them earlier: Matthews, Marner, etc. And the reason for this is because the Leafs have had the 7th worst power play in the NHL so far, 13.04% power play percentage. I know the Leafs power play has been bad dating back to the end of last season, but this power play percentage is not sustainable with the amount of star power that they have on this top unit. So I would definitely consider buying low on those top guys. All right, guys, that is pretty much it. That is the end of the video. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I will catch you in the next one.